Alright gang, this TinkerCAD tutorial is going to have us build one of the most famous buildings in the entire world, the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. It was once a temple to the goddess Athena for the people of Athens. That was built over 2,000 years ago. Today we are going to build it using digital technology and have it all ready for 3D printing. Times sure are changing. Alright, let's get started. You can see the finished copy here. I'll orbit around a little bit so you can see what we're going to be doing. The main mission today is to build these Doric columns, they're called, the columns that the roof will sit on top of. But then there's also a base that is 3 layers, and then we have a roof on top of it with a cool little cutout there. Really cool project here. Let me show you how to do it. I'm going to start by dragging this off to the side so we have a clear work plane to work on. Then I'm going to start doing these columns over there. I'm going to start with just a simple cylinder. Actually, this time I'm going to use the whole cylinder, and I'm going to bring that one in. I'm going to stretch it up to 100 millimeters. And then I'm going to make the base a 5x5 base. So I'll click on the corner handlebar, click over in the number field, hit the number 5, hit tab to click over to the other one, and hit the number 5 and enter. So now I have this tall, skinny column, but it's a hole, remember, so what these are going to end up being are kind of the grooves that are cut into the side of the Doric column. So I need to have a bunch more of these things. So let me select that long, skinny cylinder, and I'll do Command D for duplicate. And then I'm going to bring it over to the side. And I want to bring it straight over, so I'll hold down the Shift key. I'm going to bring it straight over 35 millimeters. So now I have 2 columns set up there, 35 millimeters apart. I'm going to select both of them, and I am going to duplicate both of them. So Command D. Now that they've been duplicated, I want to rotate them a little bit. Let me orbit around my view and zoom in a little and see what we're doing better. So I have 2 copies of this pair, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to click on the little rotate, and I'm going to bring it over. Actually, no, I don't want to hold down Shift. I want to just type in 22 and a half. There we go. So now it's rotated 22 and a half. 22 and a half is kind of a magic number when working with circles, because you got 22 and a half that goes into 45, and you double that and you get 90, and then 180 and 360. So we've done an eighth of a rotation there. Now I'm just going to do Command D again, and it should keep copying that pair at a 22 and a half degree rotation. So just kind of keep laying on Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D, and one more time, Command D. I've now duplicated these cylinders, and they just keep going all the way around in a circle. All right. Now, next step, I'm going to bring in a cylinder, and this is a solid cylinder, and then I will get it to the right size and put it inside of these skinny cylinders, which will kind of cut a hole in the side of them. Hey, I do want to make sure that this thing is nice and smooth on the outside, so I just brought in the standard shape, and it comes in with a 20-sided cylinder. So I want to just crank that up to 64 as far as it will go. I'm going to set my height once again to 100. And my size on this one, I spread those guys out 35 millimeters. I'm going to try this one at 33 millimeters for the diameter. So 33 and 33. And then when I line them up, I'll just kind of see how it looks, and maybe I change that number if it looks a little too small or big. All right, before I start aligning these things, I do want to make sure that I have all of these cylinders acting as one piece. So I'll select all of those and group them. Now, when I select both my solid cylinder and my grouped set of hole cylinders, and I align them, clicking on the Align command. Sorry, I think I missed and I clicked Ungroup. Let me have them all selected and hit Align. There we go. And now I can click on those X and Y handlebars, and it's going to align it perfectly. And if I kind of orbit up top here, you can see it's just going to kind of cut out that cylinder and give me that cool traditional Greek column look like you see over there in our finished example. Alright, so I will select them all, and I will hit group, And now it's been cut out. All right, looks good to me. Next step, I'm going to bring in a box. And I'm going to end up getting this box up on top of that column, kind of like you can see in our finished example there. That's what we're working on, is getting that box up there. So I'm going to start by shrinking it up. I think I'm going to bring this down to about 7 or so about 7 millimeters high. And then to get this thing just the right size, I really like working from the top view. So up here on my little view cube, I'll click on top. That means I'm looking directly down on my shapes. And that way I can just kind of drag this thing over there and just make it so it's a little bit bigger, make my square a little bit bigger than my column. Right? That looks good. If I orbit around a little bit, I can see it looks like it's about the right height. I just want to make sure it's perfect by selecting it all and aligning it. So hit the align command and align on the X and Y. Okay. Looks pretty good, but I don't want this on the bottom. I want it on the top. So I'll click on that box. Actually, I'm going to click off and then click on just that box. So I have just the box selected, and I'll grab the black cone, and that will just drag that thing all the way up. And I'm going to bring it up until the outline kind of disappears, and then bring it back down one more so I can see the outline of my column, but it's not poking up at all. And there you go. I got a decent looking column. But actually, you know, it does look, maybe the proportions are a little out of whack. So let's do a little bit of scaling, and I'll show you how you can resize this thing and have it stay exactly the same. First, I can group these things up now. So I'll select them both, and I'll group them. But then I want to make the whole thing a little bit smaller. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click on that handlebar for the Z-axis, the top gray one. And as I'm shrinking this down, this is actually, it could be looked at as a percentage. I'm now at 60% of what its previous size was. I'm going to bring it all the way down to 50%. Right? So it's 50% of its previous size. But when I look at it, it still looks a little kind of thick. I think I want to try to make this a little skinnier. So just grabbing the gray handlebar, this time not holding down Shift, just the gray handlebar, I'm going to bring that up a little bit, and maybe I'll bring it up to about 80. So that's going to make it look a little taller and skinnier, which I think will work out better for our finished product. All right, great. We have one column. Now we just need to duplicate this thing a whole bunch of times. So I'm going to make sure I have it selected, and I will do Command D for duplicate. And then I'm going to pull this thing off to the side. I want to pull it straight off to the side, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to bring it over, let's go for 30 millimeters. So bringing that one over 30 millimeters. And now when I hit Command D to duplicate, it should just give me another one at that same 30 millimeter spacing. So I'm going to do this again. I want to have 6 of them all together. So I got 3 right now. So there's 4, 5, 6. All right. So I have 6 of these columns. And we're going to set this thing up. The Parthenon is not a square, but it is a rectangle, right? As you can see over there. And this rectangle is a 6 by 8 rectangle. So right now I have my 6 side. Let me do my 8 side. So I will select everything. And then I'm going to do Command D for duplicate. Okay. Then I'll hold down the Shift key and pull this thing out. And I'm going to pull it out 30 millimeters. 30.5. That's okay. That won't make a difference. And now I'll do Command D. And that's duplicating it again. So now I have 3 rows. I want to get 8 altogether. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I should have a 6 by 8 grid. I'm going to look at this straight from the top, and that'll make it easier to delete these ones in the middle. So I'll click on the top key. And I need to select all these in the middle. The easiest way to do that is just to select this one and delete it. Select this one and delete it. And you know what? I think I actually have 2 of them in there. And then we'll select all of them in the middle and delete those. All right, there we go. Got a nice set of columns here. Let's work on the base. To work on the base, I'm going to bring in a box. I'm going to drop that one in. And then the base of this one, or the height of this guy, I'm going to set that one to 7 millimeters. And to get the right length and width, I think this works best if we do it from the top view. So I'll click on top. And then I'm just going to drag this thing out until it's a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger than my columns. And I'm not even worried about exact numbers here, just making it look good. Just a little bit bigger. And then I do want to make sure everything's all lined up nice and perfect. So I will select everything, drag a box over everything, hit the align command, and then I will align on the X and the Y. Whoops, you know what? I forgot to group my columns before. So let me do Command Z and undo. And it was treating all those columns separately. I want them to be all one big group. So I'm going to select them by kind of coming from the side here and selecting all of them like that. And then we'll group them. The X, orbit around a little here so I can see the Y. All right, so now I have a base, but it's kind of a boring base. Let's see if I can make this thing multi-tiered. So I'm going to do a little bit of duplicating and resizing. So I'm going to select my, my base, and I'm going to duplicate it by doing Command D. So now I have two of those rectangles sitting there. Then I want to make this one just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to grab this bottom handlebar, but before I click it, I'm going to hold down the Alt key. What's cool about the Alt key, it's going to scale it in all directions. You can see in both the X and the Y directions there. It's scaling it, and it's keeping it centered. So as I pull this out, I'm just going to pull it out till it looks good. I think I came out 3 millimeters. It'll be 3 millimeters on all sides. And then I'm going to make this one just a little bit shorter by grabbing the gray handlebar. I'm just going to bring it down. It was 7. I'll bring it down to 4. And then I'm going to do same thing. I'm going to actually I think I can just do Command D. Yep, did Command D, and it just automatically duplicated that for me. And there you go. We got a cool looking base. And you can play with those sizes a little bit if you want, if it looks a little too wide or anything like that. But right now, let's get the roof on this bad boy. So over here in the standard primitive shapes, we have one that's actually called a roof. I'm going to bring that one in. And then first step is to get the X and the Y axis right. So I'm going to once again do this from the top view. Click on the top. So I'm looking at it directly from the top. And then I want it to be a little bit bigger than my columns. In fact, I think I want this one to line up right on that first step. So I'm going to grab one of these handlebars here on the side, and using the little black line that's horizontal there, I'm going to line it up right with that step on the top. And I'm going to do the same thing down here with the bottom. And line it up perfect with that first step. All right, that looks good to me. Now I need to do that same thing, but I'm going to do it from this side. So I'm going to bring it up. And then I'm going to get this thing placed so that it's lined up right with that first step. And then I'll bring it out to the side and get it lined up with that first step once again. Right. So it's pretty close. You could get more picky with it, but I think that'll be good. I'll drag it back over here to the side, orbit around a little bit. It looks okay, but it's kind of flat. So I'm going to grab the Z slider there, the Z handlebar, and I'm going to bring it up until it looks good to me, right? So that would be too much. We want this to be right there. It looks good to me. All right, now I could just drop this roof on, but it's a little boring. Let's look at how to do the little cutouts like you see over here in the finished example. I'm going to take this same roof. I'm going to do Command D for duplicate, and then I'm going to bring it straight over to the side. Now I want to make this just a little bit smaller than the original that I had, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to click on the the Z slider there, and I'll just bring it down a couple. I'll bring that one down to, looks like it's 60 here. All right, so I have this hole is the right size. Let me align them. So I will select both objects and hit the align command. And I do want to align these on all 3 axes. So I will, I will click the X, the Y, and the Z axis. So now the hole is perfectly in the center of the solid. However, I don't want to cut out the center, I want to just cut out the end. So I'm going to click off, and then I'm going to select the solid. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and just slide it off until they are separate. Now I want to get at the right angle and zoom in enough so that I can see when I slide this thing in, the hole will just penetrate a couple millimeters into the solid. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to slide it towards that solid. And you should be able to tell when it hits face to face because the color is going to change a little bit. Right there, right? So that means that I'm touching it now. I'm just going to bring it in just a couple. We could get a little more picky here and you know, really dial in the numbers, but I think if you can just bring it in a few millimeters, it's going to look cool. All right, so that one's in good position. Now I need to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to do Command D. And so I've duplicated that shape that's going to be a hole. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to drag it all the way through. I think I'll just drag it all the way so it's not touching anymore. And then I can orbit around and kind of do it from a better angle here. So I'll hold down Shift and bring it in. And when I bring it in, the face will turn gray. Right? That means I'm touching. And I'm just going to go in 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks. So I should be 4 millimeters in. Right, so I have a hole, a solid, and a hole. When I select all of these things and group them, I should be left with, you know, 2 cool little cut-ins. All right, we are just about there. Let's get this thing lined up, and we will have ourselves a Parthenon. I need to move this roof onto the top of my columns. The easiest way to do that is to move your work plane. So I'm going to click on the work plane button and click on top of one of those columns. I want to get it so that the you know, the top of that column is yellow, and so that moved my work plane up there. Now when I select my roof, the easiest way to get it onto the work plane is to hit the letter D. And now I know it's at the exact same height as the top of those columns. All right, I'll put my work plane back where it was just by clicking on the work plane button again and kind of clicking back on that original space. And now I'm going to group these things up. I'm going to align them, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to select all my objects, my base, my columns, my roof. I'm going to hit the Align button. I'm going to align it on the X and on the Y axis, and there we go. Super cool Parthenon. Just to finish it off, I'm going to select everything and change its color. So select it all. I'm going to click on the group. I'm going to group it first, and then I will click on the solid button, and I'll go over to like a nice gray. And as soon as the computer's done grouping that stuff, it should all turn gray. Right now it's thinking. That's what that little red outline means. All right, there we go. Cool gray Parthenon. If you can work your mouse well enough, you can even zoom right in there and give yourself a little tour. All right, we have big Parthenon and little Parthenon side by side. Hope that worked out well for you all.